Okay, so I'm Heather Waters. I'm here with Chief Richard Lemunion, who is the founder of the Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics. Welcome.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Well, I know we have so many people who are excited to hear from you and kind of learn more about the Law Enforcement Torch Run and how it got started here in Kansas 39 years ago, almost 40 years. So I guess let's kick things off and just tell us a little bit about the beginning of the Law Enforcement Torch Run and how it all came about.
Well, let's go back several years. I became the police chief in Wichita in 1976, which was a long time before many of them in the audience was even thought of. So as the chief, we had the largest police department in the state, and we still do. But one of the things that we needed to do in those days was we needed to get more involved in the community. So as the chief, I was looking for opportunities that something that the officers themselves would be interested in doing. I didn't want to order people to do things. I wanted them to willingly get involved in something. And in 1978, I was invited to come to the Kansas Summer Games, which in those days were held at South High School here in Wichita. And I really didn't know that much about Special Olympics at all. I knew what Special Olympics was, and that was about the extent of it. And so I put my uniform on and I went down to the Summer Games. And it was really an eye-opening experience. Not only the athletes, which I was thoroughly impressed with, but the volunteers and the staff and the parents and the families of the Special Olympic athletes really made a dramatic impression on me. And during this process, I noticed that the athletes, while they were impressed, I guess, by having mayors and governors and other people there, they really liked the officers in uniform. They liked the police officers. We had some military guys there, and they liked that. They liked that. And I was asked to present medals. And as I went up, I remember the podium. It's set up like the regular Olympics. And this little girl, she's probably 9, maybe 10, 11, somewhere in that area, a little special athlete. And she had just won her event. And she was standing and getting ready to do the gold medal, and I'm getting ready to present it to her. And as she's just almost squeaking with joy, she's just jumping up and down, little tears of joy running down her face. And so when they announced her name, I presented her with a medal, and she literally just almost jumped off the podium, giving me a hug. And I thought to myself right then, I said, I don't know that much about this movement, but we're going to get involved in it. And so that's basically how it started. I went back to City Hall at that time, and I talked to some of the staff people and told them kind of what my thought process was. So we had a group put together from every, from operations, from detectives, from the lab unit, support unit, every part of the department. We got together and we started talking about what could we do to help support the Summer Games. Well, we found out in those days that they did have a banquet, but everyone had to pay for it. And, it was a hit and miss thing because a lot of people had expended their funds by the time they got to Wichita and were unable to attend. So we decided we would take that on. So with the support of the group within the department, we raised money to become a prime sponsor. And in those days, there were 2 prime sponsors. One was Koch Engineering and the Wichita Police Department. And as a result of that, we provided a banquet for all of the athletes and the coaches free of charge at the convention center in Wichita. And then in addition to that, we provided hats that said Kansas Special Olympics, Wichita Police Department, and it had a white front on it. And so during that week, all the officers were authorized to wear the hats at their regular duty out on uniform. So they wore the hats. And then when we showed up at the summer games, the first time, what we did with all the hats, they wanted us to sign them. And then we had probably somewhere around 200 officers down there that volunteered their time in uniform. We had motorcycles, we had police cars. I flew in the helicopter. And as they walked in, they received a standing ovation from the athletes who are already in the stands. And trust me, in all my years in law enforcement, you don't receive standing ovations because officers are called to deal with tough situations, tragedies, things that have gone wrong. And so it was mind-boggling to the officers that were involved, and that really started it. As a result of that, we had officers volunteering to become coaches. They got involved. They had their own special athlete. And of course, when you have a police department as large as Wichita, in those days, it was probably around 550 or 600 total people in the department. Now it's closer to 850 or so. But within that family of police officers, someone in that is a special athlete. In other words, within the family, or they know someone that has a special athlete. So that drew it in. So it grew from there, and we started doing the banquet and everything. What happened to the torch run in 1981, we had done this now 78, 79, 80, and now we're 81. Within the police department, we had a quote over 40 running club. And in those days, I just barely made it. But anyway, I was in. And some of the officers came in, the original runners came in and said, "Chief, we have an idea. We want to run the torch from City Hall to South High School, about 5 miles roughly." And they did. And of course, the news media picked up on it. So it became big news. They saw these officers carrying the torch going down there. So we got to talk about Special Olympics. So the next business day, which would have been the Monday after the summer games, I get calls from business guys and they say, "Hey, Chief, this was a great idea. What can we do?" And I said, "Well, send money." And so that's what they did. And we're not sure how much money was sent that first year, maybe $250, $300. But we sent it to Kansas Special Olympics. And once that started, we decided, well, heck, maybe we ought to expand this to make it a statewide thing. So the next year, we with the cooperation of other departments and the Highway Patrol, we ran the torch from Kansas City area to Topeka, obviously our capital, and the governor was there, made a little speech. And then we ran it on down to Wichita to open the summer games. I think we had 6 different police departments involved that first year, plus the Highway Patrol. And that's the way it started. And after that, in 1982, I was talking to Kirk Miles, who in that day was the executive director for Special Olympics Kansas. And he says, this is something we probably ought to see if we can expand this to other states and things. And I said, well, good. So let's go do whatever we're doing. He said, well, we'll have to talk to Ms. Shriver. I said, okay. And I'd never met Mrs. Shriver at the time. But I was a member of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. So I carried this message back to the IACP and said, hey, this is something is a win for everyone. It's a win for law enforcement. It's a win for the special athlete. It's a win for our country in general. So they signed off on it too, through the process that they have, and we used them as a sounding board. And then, excuse me, Kirk set up a meeting with Mrs. Shriver. We went back to Washington. She took the meeting, and we explained to her our vision and what we wanted to do. And she was very nice, but very suspect. What is she going to do with all these cops? She didn't say no, but what we convinced her or asked her to do, I said, would you please come to Kansas and observe the summer games? in 1983, and she agreed to do that. And she was a lady of her word. She showed up. She saw all of the athletes with their hats. She saw all of the officers marching in. And when it was all said and done, we met with her and she said, we're in. So that's how it started. Now, it was a growing process. It didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of bumps along the way. But during the process, Mr. Shriver, the International Chiefs Association, really stood strong in what we were trying to accomplish. So the first year that we actually got going through the International Association of Chiefs of Police, I think we had 6 states that joined in. And then it'd go a little further and we'd have 10 states, 15 states, and eventually we got all the states. And then Canada came on board. Canada was the first torch run outside of the continental United States, was Canada. So as the process unfolded, there was a lot of work between Special Olympics International and the Law Enforcement Torch Run, because it was a partnership, is what we were forming, was a partnership. It still is a partnership. We had to make special arrangements. For example, the money raised in Kansas originally was designed to go back to Washington and then brought back to Kansas a percentage. And we said, no, that can't happen. That has to go this way. And so there was a lot of things we worked out, but we were always able to work them out. There was politics when you get involved in international movements and things of that nature. Each country had their different things and way of doing things, but the concept always remained solid. Torch runs cut across every barrier that we have put up, whether it be race, religion, economics, politics, it doesn't matter. It cuts across all those barriers because our athletes come from every walk of life. They don't pick who they are or where they come from. All we know is we just stay together on it. So as a result of that, those of us within the movement, whether it be Special Olympics staff, whether it be police officers, whether it be whatever type of thing it is, doesn't matter what our differences are, we focus on the Law Enforcement Torch Run and the athlete. Now, I talked longer than you probably wanted to talk, but that's basically how it started. And now we have an executive council that coordinates, but it still boils down to the various states, the various countries, the various provinces as to how the torch run itself runs. We have guidelines, we have training, so it's pretty sophisticated. I'm impressed, and I'm always asked, well, Chief, you're the founder. Did you know this was going to happen? And of course, I always tell them, well, sure, I'm the chief. I knew these things. Well, I didn't have a clue. I just knew it was good. I knew it was correct. I knew it was right. And I knew it would work because it works in your heart. And you can't stop that because it's good for everyone and it's a win for everyone. And I'm so happy. And the other thing that's been going on in Special Olympics is I've had the opportunity to work with the Eunice Shrivers and the other people that they bring into this and the politicians. And we've had presidents that were torch runners and they come from both parties. I mean, they can agree on that. And so I've had the opportunity to be at the White House and be with the Eunice Shrivers and the other politicians. We don't talk politics, we talk Special Olympics International. If we could get everyone's mindset, the same mindset that we have in the Law Enforcement Torch Run and Special Olympics International, we could eliminate wars, we could eliminate everything, but it just doesn't work that way. But we can do our part, and I'm so thrilled with the officers that have established this, who are now retired or perhaps gone on, and with the people that are now involved in it. And it just makes you feel like maybe this is something that everyone else continue. I think it will continue. It will only grow stronger. What I started to comment on was Special Olympics has grown also. you take the athlete, when I got involved in this in 1978 and what they did, to where we're at now with the global messengers and with all of the things. When we have the international conferences, it's not just us, the athletes are a part of it. If I'm going to make a presentation or something, there's an athlete that's going to introduce me. The talents that the athletes have has been brought up. Everyone concentrates not on what they can't do, but what they can do. And the movement that Special Olympics has now to assist the athlete beyond just the sport. The sport's what brings them together, no question about it. But the other aspects are just really something that we should all be happy about, that we brought the athlete into where he or she needs to be, and that's a part of our community. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Thank you so much. That's just fantastic information. It's so fun to go back and, think about how it started. And like you said, just a couple $100 raised and paying for a dinner. And now you think of all the amazing things that law enforcement provides. I know here in Kansas that our law enforcement officers are just raising money all the time so that our athletes can go and participate in events, like you said, the sporting events, but also do athlete leadership training and go to Topeka, to our local government, and tell them, hey, this is what we're doing here in Kansas. And then also heading to Washington and talking to people and letting people know what Special Olympics is about. And like you said, bridging all those barriers. It doesn't matter where people come from or what their background is. Everybody has an ability. And okay, let me switch over to Facebook and see if we have any questions from our viewers. Okay, let's see. We have some comments. So Terry Thomas says, hi, I'm a Special Olympics athlete and have been in it for many, many years. Did it 1986 and 87 and have been in it since then and love it. I'm sure
I may have perhaps met him over the years.
Yep. Josh Alters, who's one of our athletes, he is the head of our Athlete Input Council, and he serves on the board of directors as well. Right. He says, how many countries have you visited with LETR, and do you have a favorite country?
My favorite country is Kansas. I don't know how many I've been to. Many have, but what I've learned is the athletes, whether they speak English or whether they speak some other language, are all the same. They're all loving, caring, wonderful people. So I guess what I'm saying is I love the athletes regardless of where they're from, and I've traveled a lot. I really have been blessed to have the opportunity and the means to do it, the ability to do it, but I always love coming home. I really do. And so it's a fair question, but I don't really have a favorite other than I'm glad it all started in Kansas, because if you think about Kansas, in the continental United States, we're the center, we're the absolute center, and it spread from Wichita, from the state of Kansas, around the world. And I think that speaks well for a little bit of a thought. One time a college professor did a story, or he wrote a book, and the Special Olympics Law Enforcement Torture Run was a part of it. It was more of a pamphlet than it was a book. But he did little things, and it was called Small Wins. And what he was talking about is the little things that somebody comes up with, the thought, that somebody takes that thought. It was the officer's idea. Think about this. I didn't come up with the idea of the torch run. That was brought to me by other officers. But once I saw the results, I thought, okay, I'm in a position, along with some others, to make this bigger, to open some doors. But the original thought really didn't come from me. So it takes a whole team to get this doing. But what the professor was showing was one vision, one thought, which was so small, now has become, as we say, a roaring flame of stability around the world, where it was just a little flicker and it started. And the point he was making, and I think it's a valid point, a little bit of wind on that spark started the flame. I
Definitely.
know I kind of get philosophizing here.
Now, I know since you brought up, the officers came to you with that idea. I know that we continue to see here in Kansas and around the world, officers coming up with fun and interesting ideas to raise money. So let me ask you that. What's maybe an event that sticks out in your mind that you've seen as a law enforcement event?
Well, I've seen several of them, and there are so many different aspects of what we do. There's certain things that we have done that I would have never come up with the idea. And I like all of them, and they're all unique, and I don't care what it is. It raises money for Special Olympics. I mean, like jumping off of a building, rappelling. I would have never thought of that. I mean, number one, I wouldn't have done it. And number two, I would have never come up with the idea. The probably the most fun one that I've ever been involved in and continue to be involved in is the polar plunge. I mean, that is probably one of the top fundraisers around the world. And I've had the opportunity, for example, to be in Alaska now, and the ice was, probably 1.5 feet thick where they cut it all back. And these officers are jumping into this stuff. I will have to admit, I didn't do that one, but, and then I remember the one in Hawaii. We did one in Hawaii, well, on Waikiki Beach. Well, there's no ice there. So a couple of officers just took a canoe, went out there and dumped a couple of 10 pounds of ice in the ocean and said, here we go. And then at the World Games, last year, when we had the World Games in Abu Dhabi, I'm out in the middle of the desert. It's a sand desert, and they have these inflatable pools that are about 2 feet deep with these big chunks of ice in them. And I had an athlete on one side and an officer who had raised money on the other side, and we just fell backwards in it. It was called the solar plunge, but it raised thousands of dollars for Special Olympics. So I think there's so many of them that they have, whether you're doing it on the East Coast, whether you're doing it on the West Coast, whether you're doing it in the middle. And Kansas has several polar plunges themselves. So in fact, we just had the first one up here in this area, just north of Wichita in Mays this year. And they all grow each year. So I guess the answer would be my favorite, I think, is the polar plunge. But I just think some of the truck convoys they come up with, who would have thought of that? Polling airplanes, sitting on donut shops. I mean, Tip-A-Cop, that's a big one. Now, of course, because of the situation we're in now, it's kind of slowed down, but it'll come back. And it's just like this year, it's kind of a tough year. It's a tough year for everyone, not just for Special Olympics torch run and the athlete. It's tough for everyone. But you know what? We're going to get through it. And we're going to be stronger than ever because of it. Because I've never seen a Special Olympic athlete that didn't have a positive attitude. He or she, they're going to do their absolute best, and that's what they do. And it's our job to make sure they have an opportunity to do that.
That's right.
I know I get long-winded on answering my questions.
All right. Let me check in over here on Facebook again. Jean and Kim Mudd say hello and thank you for everything you do. Let's see. Erin Fletcher, who's a staff member for Special Olympics, she says, Chief LeMunyon, what is your favorite memory from the law enforcement torch run? And I'm sure it's hard to narrow it down.
It is. I've had so many great memories. I remember, well, first off, the little girl, I wish I'd have gotten her name, that started this whole Special Olympics thing, that give me the hug. That's probably one of my favorite memories. But there have been so many great memories with the athletes and with staff and with the growing pains that we've gone through, and one of the best cheerleaders for the Special Olympics side, and Miss Shriver, Eunice, she was She was very professional about it. She was matter of fact about it. But Sarge Shriver was probably the best cheerleader you ever had. I mean, he would just raise the crowd up when he did it. And I have a lot of great memories with so many officers as we were learning how to do a final leg. I don't know that I can give you a special, every one of them so special. Every time I show up at a conference or something, someone reminds me of something else. And a lot of times they're so kind because, you get involved in literally, I've been in this more than 40 years when you consider before the torch run. And I've been honored to meet thousands of people. And a lot of times they're kind to remind me, hey, remember this when we were doing this? And that's good. So I just have great memories, final leg memories, memories with conversations, just sitting in quiet, that just talking people. And we've just had so many fond memories, met so many great people, wonderful people, not because of their status necessarily, but because of their love for Special Olympics. And they come from all walks of life. It doesn't matter who they are. They may be the president, or they may be a Schwarzenegger, or they may be just a regular person off of the street, and they're all the same when it comes to this particular thing here. And they're genuine. They're genuine. So I have a lot of memories, a lot of fun. Everybody keeps saying you should write a book. I said, I can't remember it all. So yeah. So
it's good. It's a good problem to have so many good memories that you can't narrow them down.
Oh yeah. And I can't show you here, but I have my whole office in here is torch run. I've got torches on the wall, that they've given me over the years. I've got pictures of the athletes. I've got special memories of things that people have graciously provided me. And it's just, and in fact, it's a conversation piece. People will walk in and say, well, hey, what's this about? And I say, well, if you got a couple of hours, I'll explain it to you. But of course, everyone knows, and everyone's kind about it. It's just been a godsend. It literally has been.
That's great. Let's see, Glenn Grunwald is watching. He said, so proud to be on the KSO board of directors back in 1981. And I know Glenn's still involved with us today, just
Yep.
like yourself.
Yep.
Let's see if we have any more questions. Kelly Sheehy says, hi, Chief. Miss you. Hope you and Sharon are doing well.
Kelly, bless her heart, she's going to leave me. She got promoted.
Oh, no.
But she won't leave me because she's in my heart.
Perfect. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. Anybody on Facebook? Now's your chance. Type in your question. I will say, we'll give it another minute and see if anybody has questions, but we want to thank Humanities Kansas and the Johnson County Community College. They were partnering with us to help make today possible and give us some guidance on how to do this. And it's definitely a crazy time with COVID and social distancing and everything, but I think this is a cool way to share a little bit of information and get the story of LETR out there.
It really is. And I appreciate you coming up, or whoever came up with the idea. Obviously I didn't, but it really is. And that's what we have to do now. We got to keep it fresh. And I can assure you, and I speak for the officers around the world, once we have the opportunity to get back to what we were doing, we'll do it. And if for some reason we have to modify what we were doing, we'll figure out how to do it. This is a law enforcement movement for our special athletes, which are your special athletes. And this isn't going to stop. We're going to continue to grow. And the people that come after me and continue to come are going to continue to go. We've got our chief in Wichita now has really picked up the ball here. We have a great team internally that's going to help pick up from Kansas. And we have a great executive council in Kansas. They are really active. They do a great job. And we're just thrilled You know, I look back now at my years as the chief in Wichita, and now I have a grandson, Jacob, you know, and he's part of the torch run now. So that's what's going to happen. And everyone that's come before you, that's what's happened. Somebody else has picked up the torch and went on, and that's what's happening here, and that's what happened in Kansas. We just have great people here. But if you really take and look across the U.S., around the world, all of the people that are involved in this are just like that. They're wonderful, great, caring people. And this movement will prevail.
That's right. Now, I remember we didn't have our summer games in person this year, but I think last year your grandson was there with you at summer games and you guys were handing out medals together. So tell me about that real quick. What was that like?
Now that was quite a deal. Who would have thought, right? That was a neat deal. And it just came about. I don't know if it was your suggestion or whose idea it was, but it really worked out great. We got there and we always have great turnout of officers here from around the state that do a great job. And that was probably, we got some great pictures of that. And both holding out the medals, I would have never dreamed that, of course. But the point is that it's the Jacobs that's going to continue doing this. It's him and people like him, because once you get the medal, once you get it in your heart, you don't have to be ordered to do it. I never had to order any officer to do any of this stuff. They say, Chief, I can take care of this. I'll take care of this. And that's what's happening, not only in our state, but around the world.
Yeah. All right. One last question we've got here on Facebook. So where do you see the LETR in another 40 years?
Oh, the technology is going to take it over, they think, but it'll all boil down to the police officer and the special athlete. You can do all the technology you want, and I can't even fathom what the technology will be 40 years from now. But where I see it is the relationship between the officer and the special athletes and the families they come from still being the key component to making this successful. And it will still be functioning 40 years now at a level we can't even perceive.
Yeah, I agree. I think, looking back 39 years ago, who would have thought today we'd be sitting here talking about it over the internet, so
Yeah.
it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun to see where it goes from here. So thank you again so much for hopping on here today to share your story and answer some questions from our athletes and staff and friends and coaches. We look forward to this, and we know next year, hopefully all this COVID stuff is behind us and we can all get together and celebrate 40 years of law enforcement and Special Olympics having a relationship, and it's going to be great. We're gonna have a big party.
Yeah. Well, I thank you very much for letting me be a part, and to all of my friends and the ones that are looking in there. I'm sure I know many of them. Thank you, each one, for being a part of it and continuing to carry the torch and helping the cause for everything that we do, because it's because of you and those that you're training that this thing will continue to go. So thank you for letting me be a part of this today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody watching, have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see everyone